You ever use glue in your shop?
A little bit. A little bit.
I find when I'm teaching classes, gluing, clamping, choosing the right glue, people don't really look at it always like choosing the right tool.
Right.
But they need to.
Choosing the right glue and the right glue technique.
Yeah. So that's why we're here today, is Jimmy and I are going to give you some of our well-founded gluing tips.
We're going to go back and forth, tip for tat.
Jump in. Tip for tat?
Yeah, tip for tat. I'll show you a tip here. So if you have a knot, you have an open knot right here, right? And we're going to take that open knot, fill it in with some native sawdust, and then just use some CA glue on there. CA glue or cyanoacrylate. That's the instant glue that we've all used our whole lives. And just begin to build up that surface.
And what's nice about this is you're using, when Jimmy said, the native sawdust. So as opposed to using a wood dough in here that may or may not match, this is walnut sawdust going in a walnut board. Right. So your chances of success, which is color match, are really good.
And now we're going to let that dry for a couple of minutes. Let that, you see what's going on there?
Yeah, you're kind of there already.
And we have, because I'm a little bit of a wacko and I want to get it perfect.
Little bit?
Type on Instant Accelerator. And then when you use the accelerator, it doesn't always cure instantly. It takes probably about 20, 30 seconds. So give it just a few seconds to kick. We'll let that kick for a minute. And then with a rasp or a plane or a sander, you can get that nice and smooth.
And one of the things when you're using accelerator in combo with CA, you want to be careful with the accelerator. Again, it's something like, I don't know, I run into this when we do pen turning. People overuse the accelerator sometimes. And if you've seen your CA glue crystallize,
gets hot.
It's because you use too much too much accelerator.
And it gets very hot. That's actually fairly warm right there. You don't want to. You could burn yourself. It also creates a fume, so keep it away from your face.
Yeah, you don't want to inhale what's coming off of that.
Yeah. So you got a quick rasp. We'll hit that off quick, and we'll probably get a nice little quick finish on that.
All right. While he's rasping, glue application inside a mortise. So lots of us use glue brushes like this. And in general, a flex brush is a good glue application device. However, for this application, we're going to make it more better by taking a pair of scissors and just finessing the end of that glue brush a little bit. Nothing says you have to use it the way it came out of the package. So think about, if you're painting and you're doing detail work, you're probably using an angled paintbrush so that you can better control the paint flow. So by trimming those tips down, so that this tip is about the tip, by trimming that down into a little bit more of a chisel point, now when I come along with my glue, that gives me a lot better control inside here to make sure that the glue is going to stay inside the mortise and not end up in a huge mess. All right, it's all you.
Control. Well, I'll show you a tip here. If you ever use MDF, if we've ever used MDF, we find it's difficult to paint those open edges of the MDF.
They're crazy porous.
The face is a little bit less porous than the sides, so to cure that, we'll just put a little bit of just regular Tite Bond on there, and you could brush it or you could just smooth it in there with your finger, and now you've created a completely sealed edge. Let that dry, and that's completely skinned over. You could sand that once that dries, and George suggested maybe we water it down. Right there, that's straight out of the bottle, but if you did a CNC into MDF, you did like a full 3D mapping of a CNC, there is a good opportunity where you might want to water it down, maybe 50-50, then you brush it in so the details don't fill in. So you do it a few times, and the water will suck out and the glue will stay on the surface.
And you're using glue as a sizing agent. Yeah. So that sizing just means you're pre-sealing the grain before you do the next step. I love this because I do a lot of CNC work. And I had never actually thought of using glue for this, so I'm really glad that you're here. Because that's when you when you release that cut area, when you open up that cut area, it does, like Jimmy said, you can really see the porosity there. So that's very cool. I like that. All right, we got to move glue over a big area. So we're going to glue this to this.
Now imagine that's like a big giant table.
Yeah, or making a turning blanket or whatever. So you've got a lot of square footage of area that you want to cover. There it is. Woo, burp. So first thing, get glue on there. And then something like, I do love my acid brush, but that would take a lifetime. Piece of threaded rod is going to act like a mastic knife.
I like this tip. Look at that, fancy pants.
Give you a nice uniform coat. And you know, when it's cold in Wisconsin, you need a uniform coat.
Is that okay?
Different topic. Boom, clamp, done. So it's just an uber fast way to get glue spread.
And that's nice. And you could just go wash it off at the sink
Yeah,
or throw it
yeah.
away.
Yeah, don't just set that on your workbench like I just did. Clean that up and live to fight another day.
All right. This is still curing here. I want to try and get us a nice finish, so I'm letting that cure up nice and tight.
Okay.
All right. Here's another thing. Similar idea with the wood fill. This is like making pasta dough. You take your native sawdust and just like dropping an egg inside of a little flour. You just start doing that. You're mushing that around. And you basically come up with like a little tiny piece of dough.
And you can control the consistency by
Adding
pulling in more
oils.
sawdust or pouring in more glue.
And now you have like a little nugget. You could take that and go push that into a screw hole. And you know, if you have a big job, you can make a nice big meatball of that. And you take that where you want. Shove that into a crevasse. And it becomes, again, if you were using the native wood, of course,
because we're dumping walnut dust in a piece of maple here, but
yeah, I of course would let that cure for several hours before you go back and sand it. And so that's a way of making.
so part of the benefit to the CA on this approach is the CA is going to be much faster.
Yeah, but
than
here,
the yellow glue
what's good about this is you could put in holes on the side of a table leg, for instance.
because it's got some body to it.
Yeah, you could work on a surface vertically or horizontally. Here it's really just kind of working straight on the open gap there. That's pretty hard now.
So sometimes, and I was thinking about this, one of the projects Jimmy did this week was a really cool finger jointed box. And I was thinking about this when you were putting your box together. Sometimes the tip is about choosing the right product. So this is Extend wood glue, and it's just what it sounds like. It tacks up, it cures more slowly than the other glues in the family.
Right.
So sometimes, you know, it's nice to break your glue ups into sub-assemblies if you can. But this four-sided box that Jimmy did, there was no way to do that. All the finger joints had to come together at one time.
Right.
The extended glue is a great choice for that because it gives you more working time to get everything square and snug before the glue starts to grab.
I tend to also, this is another tip, there's really no physical test of this tip, but I always use as little glue as possible. I see a lot of guys tend to get tons of squeeze out, and then that just causes you more cleanup later. But if you did have some cleanup, and I'll show you on this example I made over here. When I have friends over at the shop while I'm doing a glue up and they see glue squeezing out, they go to wipe it. I say, no, leave it. Because these little dots are easy to break off later than to clean up all the nuance.
That may or may not work well for you. It's a little gross.
Yeah. So that's much easier.
That's perfect.
Yeah. So if I was to wipe that clean earlier on while it was still soft, I'd basically have a big swoosh line there that I'd have to work on sanding out, especially a grain like oak. Oak will fill right up. You'll have a hard time. You got to go past the bottom of those little divots to get rid of that glue.
It's
So something like this, you want to just leave it till those little nobules harden, and then you can just scrape them off later.
It's not the glue residue is not the accent you want to have show up under your finish.
Yeah, it's impossible to get rid of. So leave the drips.
Do before I glue these face to face, do that thing you do with your finger in the glue bottle, kind of like drawing a line.
I'm obsessed with getting this
I
right.
see that.
Anyway, that gives you a really good start to get at it with the orbital. And if you need to fill it in more, now that we've dug into our shell of CA glue, it's a little bit light, we'll just get it back to the right color.
And what a great gain, because I don't mind having the knot in my project, but
Yeah.
I probably do mind having a hole. That was actually a hole all the way through.
Yeah.
I would mind having a hole all the way through.
Yeah, we just put some packing back.
Built a dam.
So I'll show you, if you're doing, this trick comes in handy when you're doing hardwood edges on an open face like library cabinet, for instance, and you have to do 8-foot long glue ups, and you're going to glue a hardwood strip on the open edge of plywood or MDF.
And you're
Just
trying to really control your application so you
Right.
don't end up with a big muddy mess when you're done.
You know, like one way could be like this, I'm going to do it wrong first. You do that, and you end up with an inconsistent squeeze out. You get a big mush here, some mush there. Now, I'm going to get rid of that.
That's my bench. What?
So here, watch. Just like I would do with a pencil, I'll just keep my finger riding along the side, and I'll do that 8, 9, 6 feet, and I have a nice consistent squish out. I know that when I put my opposing piece on it, we're not going to get a big glob somewhere versus a glob somewhere else. So that's just controlling using the bottle itself and some quick learned techniques by using
It's
the
such a
fingers.
nice, simple way to control your application
Yeah,
so that you don't end up with puddles
Huge
in one
mess.
spot and dry in another spot.
yeah.
All right, the masking tape is here because these two pieces that now we stuck together. I was going to show you this. I use double-face tape in my shop all the time. Every once in a while I run out of it. The double-face tape alternative
I like this trick.
is masking tape and masking tape. Part of the key is you masking tape both surfaces. And then
The
cod
trick
glue.
to this too is you don't want to put
What?
too much.
Oh, you think? You're right, because that's going to squeeze out. No, you're right. I was just seeing if Jimmy would catch that.
You don't want to put too much. You don't want it to squeeze out
Yeah, you
past
just
your
need a
tape.
little dot. I was overzealous.
Yeah. A little more. It's too much.
No, it's
Put 2 dots. That's good. It's good.
Then we do this. I should have done this early because the drying time on this is a little slower because we don't have accelerant in there and
Which
we're not.
Caught up.
I could have put it on the masking, the mating piece of tape would have been the smart money. Well, let's do this. Let's revisit this because here's the thing. There's a method to the madness with the accelerant. So I'm going to start over.
But look at that squeeze out. You see how much squeeze out you got, even
Yeah.
just from the small dots. So don't
It was
forget.
you're right. I was very close to the tape, edge of the tape, which would be bad.
All right, start again.
So we're going to start again. Spin again, begin again. It's a movie probably before your time.
Sounds familiar. I think I heard it the day I was born.
Okay, so if you're going to use Accelerator as part of your CA process, Accelerator doesn't have like cure time. CA glue starts as soon as you spread it or as soon as you apply it, CA glue starts to go. So you want to do the Accelerator first and not, again, get crazy with this because it can crystallize the CA. Then do the CA glue. Is that fine?
I guess.
Then do this. So let's let that sit a second.
Here's another tip. Say, for instance, you're doing base molding or crown molding, and you're 1 foot short. You don't want to go back and buy a whole nother 12-foot piece. You could scarf joint 2 pieces together, that extra 1 foot that you might need, some CA glue on it, and you want to fill up that open end. In this case, we're using MDF, but whatever you're using, you could be using PVC for all, who knows. I'm getting both
Because
sides.
that's another benefit to CA glue is it's going to stick to PVC pipe, it's going to stick to metal,
So you see I filled in both of those open faces like that.
priming it.
I got a little bit messy here. I'll hit it with a little bit of kicker, see if we get lucky. And then you notice I'm moving it around so I don't glue it to the table if we have
Thank
any
you.
squeeze out. But if you let that sit for a few minutes, you have a nice clean scarf joint.
You've made one long board out of 2 shorts.
Yeah, especially when it's something like a crown molding where it's difficult to get them to stay together. And then now that they're CA glued, that shrinkage over time will be at the end. It won't be right where you put those 2 joints together. all
So it
along.
won't, the scarf won't open up
Right.
over time.
Yeah, because basically will become one piece.
All right, let's go back to my CA experiment here. So again, got those two pieces, masking tape and CA together. We can machine them, we can flush trim them, we can do whatever you're gonna do. But then when you're done with that, like double-faced tape, you can pop it open because the CA glue is only bonded to the tape. It's not actually bonded to the wood. Let's do one more thing because we were talking about this off camera a second ago. Hide glue is cool stuff.
Yeah.
And again, sometimes the tip is use the right product. So with hide glue, a neat thing about that is it's reversible. So yellow glue's reversible by like knocking it apart with a mallet, but it's not easy to do.
You'll leave half the material on the joint.
On each side, yeah. So with hide glue, steam will disassemble a hide glue joint. So it's pretty commonly used in instruments, luthiers, and part of that is tweaking an instrument for another player or doing repairs in the future. And then also veneer type applications where you think you veneer a table today and 50 years from now, the table is sound, but the veneer has to be replaced because it's been beat up. So hide glue is also commonly used for that.
Yeah.
And what's nice with this some hide glues you get in pellet form and then you got to heat it. And in order to be able to use it, it's nice with this that it comes right out of the bottle.
That's nice. That's
some pretty good stuff.
I got to try that. I never really used hide glue. I never knew what hide glue was for until you explained it today.
Yeah, it's very, and it also gives you a lot of, it's a very, very slow cure time, tag time.
Is it water soluble?
Yes, I think so. Well, yeah, because it comes apart with steam. So
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Gives you a lot of working time.
Yeah.
All right,
You know what I like?
tell me.
I like Type-On 3 lately. I've been really using Type-On 3 in the last couple of years because I like when it dries nice and dark. And because it's also waterproof. You use Type-On 3 for indoor-outdoor projects.
And I've been asked by a lot of people, can I just default to Type-On 3? Because we've got original 3, we don't have a bottle of Type-On 2 out here. And this is waterproof. Type-On 2, which would be right there, is water resistant. And then this is for your indoor furniture type pieces. And the answer to that is yes. There's no reason why you can't just do Type-On 3 on every product. That's giving you the most robust. It's also FDA approved for food surfaces like a cutting board, and gives you the most robust joint.
It also has a pretty good open time too.
Yep.
If you're doing finger joints, it's really important to have open time because your finger joints, you'll get halfway there, you get a phone call, you come back to them, and they won't go anywhere.
Yeah, that would be bad.
You have all that glue surface area, you got to make sure you push it in to your bottom surfaces as fast as possible. With Type-On 3, I've noticed you got a lot more working time. Use something like this. Like I said, if you're in the middle of it, you go to get a clamp, you come back, you got to hammer it. You got to hammer those joints, boom, back into place. So,
All right, so tips plus choose the right product for what you're doing. Any other parting words of wisdom?
always keep the top of your bottles clean. And that could mean pulling it completely apart, cleaning off that tongue right there, poking that out, and then sticking that back in and closing it. That's like when you clean up the shop at the end of the day. If you've been using a glue bottle all day, take that glue bottle and take 2 minutes to do that. It'll save you time.
So you can actually use it the next time.
Next time you go to do it, it's like sweeping up at the end of the day.
Give us, in closing here, give us your, when you have a bottle in your shop that's like half full or half empty, depending on your perspective, how do you treat that on your bench to make sure that you have ready access to the glue in the bottle? It's very complicated. There it is.
Side. So if you're doing a glue up and you have a bottle that's half empty and you don't have the time, the anticipation to go from here, every time you go to pick the bottle up, you put it back down and everything goes back to the bottom. I keep the bottle laying on its side so that it's always at the ready. So it's at least that close to the nozzle. I pick it up and it's ready to go. You have the viscosity and the consistency and the weight all the way halfway down on the long side. When you pick it up, it all pushes right into the open nozzle.
Ready to go.
As opposed to just having to take all that time. It might take you about 2 weeks to go from here to here sometimes.
Sometimes more.
Feels like that anyway.
Yep.
So there's a tip.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
It's a good one.
Thank you. Thank you, Type-On.